Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any public input? All right, Sherry, call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's,
I'm here.
Commissioner Poppins,
It's the agenda vote, Commissioner.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Move on to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent?
Move, Madam Chair, for approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public input on consent? All right, if not, Sherry, call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Moving on to regular business. Start with our second reading and public hearing. Staff here to present.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So the applicant for this item is Dennis Klinghagen. He's also the property owner.
I can't
The
hear him.
applicant.
Can you speak up? We can't hear you.
I can't hear him.
I'll try again. Can you hear me now?
No.
No. Can we
Little
turn the
louder.
volume up?
Carter's working on it.
Okay. Thanks, Carter.
Can you hear me?
Much
Good.
better.
That's better.
Okay. Thank you. So the applicant for this item is Dennis Klinghagen. He's also the property owner. The applicant is requesting to rezone a 5-acre parcel from the A1 Agricultural District to the C Commercial District. This parcel is approximately 1.18 miles southwest of the city of Harrisburg. The properties to the north and east of this parcel are Zone C Commercial and are a portion of the La Valley Business Park. The La Valley Business Park was developed by the applicant. The property to the south is zoned A1 agricultural, is utilized for residential and agricultural purposes. The property to the west is zoned planned development for LG Everest ACE Ready Mix. This parcel is adjacent to an established industrial park. The proposed zoning is contiguous to like zoning compatible with adjoining properties and will more align with the character of the area. City of Harrisburg does have planning jurisdiction for the subject property. Planning Commission did conduct a public hearing. Did recommend approval unanimously 6-0. With that, we'd have to answer any questions that you have for staff at this time.
Does anybody have questions for staff? All right, if not, is the applicant present? Morning, can you just state your name?
Dennis Klinghagen, 3536 West 91st, Sioux Falls.
And Dennis, what testimony do you want to give about your application today?
It was just what was left. At one time, it was going to be a house there. I had planned to put my house there, but as it turned out, I'm glad I didn't because I'd be looking at a wall of dirt and a big metal building. So it's the last piece of what I own there and go with in the commercial.
All right, thank you. Anybody have questions?
This just completes your development there?
Yeah.
Is all done?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the last piece of, back when I did the piece to the east of it there, I suggested then we could put that in the commercial, but it didn't get done at that time, so it was left as agriculture.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, and any proponents here in the audience today that wish to speak to this agenda item? Any opponents? All right, if not, I will close testimony and discussion amongst the commission. If there's none, I would consider a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd move for approval to rezone this Klinghagen addition.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second.
I've got a motion from Schmidt, a second from Commissioner Gibbons. Sorry, Joel, there was a little bit of a delay there. Any further discussion? All right, any public input on this agenda item that hasn't already been presented? Okay, Sherry, we call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. All right, we're gonna move on to our next agenda item, temporary permissible use malt beverage license.
Yep, there's folks that are going to have a birthday party out at the 4-H grounds. John Sinning is requesting to have a permissible use out there for a group I did share the email with you guys from him. It's their couple people's 40th birthday party. They're a small group that are going to get together, 60 to 70 people. And they don't want to sell, they just want to be able to consume. And per our agreement and our rental contract, we have to have a board approval for it.
All right, anybody have any questions? If not, is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any public input on this agenda item? All right, if not, Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. Move on to item 3 on our agenda. We've got board action regarding an application for a county aid lien compromise settlement.
In your packet, you should have the application for compromise. Are you Tara? Okay, and Tara is here to speak on it. She wanted to compromise her juvenile court-appointed attorney fees, and I'll let her talk on it.
All right, do you want to come on up?
Did you receive the letter? I know it's quite lengthy. But these charges were brought on by the school district and my,
I'm sorry, can you just start by saying your name and address, please?
Tara Harberts, 3613 East Sagegrass Street, apartment 102 in Sioux Falls. The charges total $4,260.43. For my daughter's charges, she's 11, and she's on an IEP and a behavior intervention plan. And the school had brought these charges on after they also did an illegal use of restraints. And so I felt that these charges were to cover their actions. And so I felt like my hands were tied to get a court-appointed attorney for her when it got to the point where she needed to get the competency eval. And so at that point is when I applied for one. Otherwise, I did try to pro se it up until that point.
So you're requesting to have the complete balance wiped off? Are you requesting to have a portion of it or make payments or?
I am requesting a full, it's a financial burden. I am a single mother of my daughter with her disabilities. I don't receive any child support for her. And I don't feel like these charges, we should have incurred these costs. I feel like the state's attorney, knowing her history, should have dismissed them before we had to use these funds.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I'm looking through the documents. Is there a financial statement presented at all on current financial statement of any property held? I know there's some talk about it in the letter, but
No, I just know, I read in the statute that it can, against all property, and I was not aware of what these charges would have been from her attorney until I received the statements in June. So I was quite shocked at the costs when they came in the mail.
Well, just speaking as an attorney myself who works in the juvenile court, had you had to hire an attorney outside private counsel, that would have ended up being much more than what this bill is here. So And as far as the cost for the competency evaluation and getting the medical records, I mean, those are funds that the taxpayers have already expended on your behalf. And when you filled out that court-appointed application, you understood that this would be a lien against you and agreed to that. I would think if there was any compromise to be made, you'd have to talk to the court-appointed attorney to see if they would adjust their bill. For that reason, and because I don't know the ins and outs of the case, I'm going to be a no on this. I just think it's a slippery slope if we start forgiving all these applications, and I don't see a financial statement from you. Does anybody have any other questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I have a couple questions.
Yeah, can you, Joel, we're having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. I don't know if the microphone on the phone side aren't picking up.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's much better.
Okay. Ma'am, do you currently have a job?
I do.
Okay. I don't have the packet in front of me. I don't have the briefing packet. Did you submit your financial, how much money you make and what your expenses are and all of that in that packet or not?
I wasn't given that.
Okay. So you're not even wanting to make a payment plan of any kind of reduced amount? You just want the whole thing wiped out?
I felt like State's Attorney Ryan Weiss, since this started in December, I felt like he knew my daughter well enough to dismiss the charges so that we didn't incur all of these charges and use
Were the charges ultimately dismissed?
They were, yes. And so this
Okay.
started as truancy at first, and my discussions with him were regarding like her IEP and her behavior intervention plan, and then the school ended up pressing simple assault charges on her after they had restrained her.
Would you agree with me that people generally should be compensated for the work they do?
Yes, I would agree, and I'm happy to compensate her attorney. She's 11 with a disability. I think we all knew the outcome of her competency eval. Any 11-year-old probably wouldn't be able to be competent enough to understand their charges that they're being charged with.
Joel, it looks like there's 3 liens. One's for $3,125, one's $219.43, and the other one is $916. And the reason for the lien, it does say it's for juvenile court-appointed attorney fees. It says there's a competency evaluation, and then it says and medical records.
Does the applicant own property?
The only property I own is a vehicle, I guess.
Okay, so you don't own any real estate.
No, I rent an apartment.
Okay. But thank you for answering my questions, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Does anybody else have any questions? Anything else you want to say today, ma'am?
Chair.
Go ahead.
Our chairperson has stated something that is what you would call the long game. In other words, if we start to mediate and take away or not having to pay for these things, while it establishes bad precedent, and we will be inundated with similar requests. Not that yours isn't worthwhile, not that you have gone the extra mile as a single parent. There are some times that you have to take a look at what the rules are in front of you, and regardless of how you feel personally, you have to abide by them. So having said that, if you were to find a payment plan that would fit into your present budget, would that help you?
I mean, possibly. I mean, my vehicle barely runs as it is. So I don't know how much time I have with this vehicle. And I've been waiting until I figure out this situation. Because it was a shock to find out that the competency eval was this high. And I'm not sure if like that could have been ran through her insurance or, well, I guess I don't understand what other option we had at that time.
Have you checked with, they're in a nonprofit in Sioux Falls that rehabs cars, old cars, and you can find basically there to get your kids to school and transportation. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of that, but I'd give you my phone number and I'll find that organization that does that, and you may qualify for that, but you'd have to submit some financials, which may alleviate your problem with your present vehicle. But on this, as I said before, I don't know that I'm going to vote in support of your application for the following reasons, because to me, we live, if we make something on an emotional statement, we usually live to regret that because it comes back to us many times over, and it was unintended consequences when we voted on it. So that's my statement, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments they'd like to make or have questions?
Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
I think with some additional information as to your financial condition with ability to pay, I think that would be pertinent information that would be beneficial. Because I am sympathetic, especially given the fact that the charges were fully dropped, as you indicated.
Yeah, and I can provide all that information.
So I don't know the circumstances all to it. I do definitely believe there's some responsibility there, not getting it handled prior to it going to the criminal system. But I am sympathetic to it because they did realize, obviously, that it's not worth going to trial for whatever reason, and there are substantial costs involved with getting to that point. I do think that you have some responsibility on that. But to your condition, as you've indicated, the sole provider for your child, I am sympathetic to it, and I do believe that we have the power to take that in consideration because that is pertinent to the well-being of your child. So if there was support for tabling for more information to get presented versus an outright no, I would support that. So thank you,
Can
Madam
I
Chair.
make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
So we do have a second option. We can have two commissioners review it. So she could submit her financial information, two commissioners could review it and then make a recommendation rather than tabling it and her possibly having to come back.
Would you support that, Madam Chair?
I would.
I would so move to do that.
I will second that.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Public comment on this agenda item. All right, if not, Sherry, will you call the roll?
Which two commissioners want to review it?
I'm willing to serve, or
I will help Commissioner Poppins.
Okay. Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Tara, if you want to get the, a financial worksheet done, and submit it to me, and then I'll get it forwarded to the commissioners.
Okay, where do I find the financial worksheet?
You'd have to make one up. You're
Okay.
just going to put on there your assets and, because we don't supply a
Just a-
financial worksheet.
Okay,
And a copy of your court-appointed, the one you filled out for the court-appointed
okay.
attorney
Clerk of
fees.
court would have that.
And the clerk of courts would have that for you.
I have a copy of it, but yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda, item 4. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. After this board's action earlier this month where you voted in favor of a resolution of necessity, the next step for this board to take is deciding how to move forward with that. And we have reached out to Clint Sargent and he has provided this board an engagement letter in which he offers a reduced rate, which is on the presentation screen here, and we're just asking for board action regarding that engagement letter.
All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Joe?
Thanks, Joe.
All right, any, can I get a motion from the commission?
I so move. Madam Chair.
Move to approve. Okay, I've got a
I will second.
motion. I've got a second from Commissioner Poppins. Any public comment on this agenda item?
Scott Montgomery, Fairview, South Dakota. One thing I'd like to bring up is South Dakota Codified Law 7-18-9 is on condemnation of private property by the county. The last paragraph in that section says, "Nothing in this section may be construed by authorizing county commissioners to condemn property for county courthouse or jail site until a majority of the voters of the county have voted in favor of an erection of the courthouse or jail." Your letter from Clint Sargent says, in the first couple of sentences, "Thank you for reaching out and informing me that Lincoln County Commission has approved the use of eminent domain to acquire the property necessary to complete the new courthouse construction project." Those seem to be in direct conflict with one another. So I think you're violating the law. There was many offers made by Darcy Johnson for land to be used for construction of this building, which was, I don't know if ignored or not acted on. I don't know how we decided that this chunk of property is the ideal place. Your engineers plainly stated that access off West Road was adequate. It's on video, watch it right here. That same meeting, members of the courthouse committee got up and said that they ought to acquire land from the McKinneys to add an entrance there. I'm not sure how the committee has more engineering know-how than the engineers do. But I just think it's wrong that the commissioners didn't contact all the surrounding landowners before acting on this whole process. I mean, if this thing goes through, you're going to inundate this whole neighborhood with criminals. I mean, that's what this is, a criminal justice center. Go downtown Sioux Falls and what hangs out around the so-called criminal justice center down there. This is not good for Canton, it's not good for the neighborhood, it's not good for any of us, and I hope you come to your senses and realize that this is the wrong thing to be doing. Taking somebody's land that doesn't want to give you their land without being talked to before the land was even purchased seems a little out of sorts to me, and I hope you guys realize that this is wrong. No matter if it's legal, which I doubt, it doesn't seem to me it's legal. This hasn't come to a vote of the people. So I would hope you'd reconsider this whole thing, because I think it's senseless that we have to have this other access when the engineer said access off West Street was adequate. You know, we got 60 acres out west of town that the county owns. So I'm not sure why we decided we had to buy more land to build something that we have adequate land to build it on right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this agenda item? All right, any further discussion amongst the commissioners? All right, if not, Sherry, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Motion carries. Move on to our next agenda item. Board action to approve and authorize the chair to execute the letter of support for the South Dakota DOT application for the South Veterans Parkway project. Has everybody had a chance to read that letter?
Yes.
Good letter.
All right. Any discussion? Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair.
Okay. Anything you wanted to
Second.
add?
Just available if there's any
Okay.
questions about it.
All right, I've got a motion and a second. Is there any public comment on this agenda item? All right, if not, Sherry, go ahead.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes, motion carries. Move on to our opportunity for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. If anybody'd like to speak, now would be the time to do so. Come on up. All right, are there any commissioner reports today? All right, do we need any executive session?
Yes,
We do need an exec?
under contracts.
I would so move.
So that would be number 3.
Which code provision is it under? We need to make that as part of our motion.
SDCL 125-2, parentheses 4. And 3? Thank you.
Can I get a motion to that effect, please?
I would so move.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second? Thank you. I've got a second from Commissioner Aaron's. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Commissioner Gibbon, a motion to come out of executive session?
I so move, Madam Chair.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Then can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So move, Madam Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Sherry, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Poppins.
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon.
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank